Welcome to Optimism Town Hall. So, we just had our final event of Optimism Fractal Season 5, Superchain winning. It was a great time and a great season. So, now we're going to be heading into our final event of Optimism Town Hall Season 3. We're going to be celebrating optimism, celebrating our achievements of Optimism Fractal Season 5, and plan for the next season of Optimism Fractal, as well as the Town Hall, too. So, this is going to be an open space, basically, where we can reflect on our collective impact, review some new proposals that I've made over the past week, and collaboratively chart our path forward on the Superchain. Encourage everybody to review the tweets that were put up by the Optimistics team over here to learn more. Throughout the season of Optimism Fractal, we've created over 20 insightful videos. Optimism Fractal and Town Hall, and fostered dozens of builder collaborations, successfully operated ORDAO for the first season that it's been built, and built a vibrant community of optimists. So encourage people to review the tweet and like and share and so forth to help spread the word, and invite friends to Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall in the next season, which will be returning on May 15th. Optimism Town Hall is a collaborative forum for discussions about Ethereum and the Superchain, with a special focus on community coordination and governance. And we host bi-weekly events right after Optimism Fractal events, where everyone can learn about Optimism's development and explore opportunities on Ethereum and contribute to important conversations about the collective's future. These are hosted every Thursday at 17 UTC. We talk about all sorts of things going on in the world computer, educational sessions about optimism, governance process, and so forth. And we organize our events with two innovative agendas games. Well, maybe one called Agendas, community agendas, but then also OP topics we sometimes play too, is a kind of a different variation of it. And these unique conversational formats help us coordinate topics meritocratically and democratically to ensure that we talk about things that are most important to the community. And we're also pioneering these mechanisms for others to be able to benefit and use and benefit from as well. You can watch every video of Optimism Town Hall on optimismtownhall.com/videos, and as well as detailed show notes to learn more, and browse the videos page for all of the past 38 episodes that we've recorded so far. And you can participate in the Optimism Fractal events right before the Optimism Town Hall to earn respect tokens by playing the respect game, which can help you gain more influence and voting power for choosing topics in the Optimism Town Hall events. But visit optimismfractal.com to learn more. And Optimism Town Hall provides a great place to explore Ethereum. You can visit optimism.io to see the Optimism Collective and the Superchain, and ethereum.org to learn about Ethereum and how these decentralized ecosystems are creating a better world, a better internet for all, helping to create civilizational infrastructure for the future of humanity. So we encourage you to join us every other Thursday after the break to learn, share ideas, and be part of building an equitable internet on the Superchain, and share your thoughts on the topics, propose topics, and so forth. Once again, optimism.io, ethereum.org, and optimismfractal.com to learn more about the communities and networks that we work with. And you can go to lou.mosh/Optimism Town Hall to register for weekly email reminders and invite friends. And we hope to see you there at the next one. We've been hosting, so throughout season 3 of Optimism Town Hall, which started back in November, we've been adding all our thoughts to this thread in the Optimism Governance forum. Not all of our thoughts, but updates basically on what we're discussing each week, and an overview of the topics and the videos and so forth. So if anyone wants to look back at what we've achieved and what we've discussed over the past 6 months at Optimism Town Hall, then you're welcome to scroll through here and see a bunch of posts from myself and Rosmari here. And you can also find all these videos on the Eden Creators YouTube channel as well, in addition to the Optimism Fractal videos, Eden Fractal videos, and so forth. Encourage people to watch, subscribe, and so forth. And check out the Lou.Mosh's Optimistics event calendar to register for all these events. Stay tuned. Looking forward to seeing everybody when we come back for the break too. And that we're returning once again on May 15th, and about 6 weeks from now, taking a 2-event break. With Optimism Town Hall, like I said, we organize all of our topics and our agendas via Agendas, which is a community agenda game, where basically whichever topic has the most votes at Monday, 17 UTC, will have the most votes. And this week I put out a topic in the Optimism Town Hall snapshot space about celebrating our season, reviewing proposals, and planning together for next season. So I propose that we dedicate this session to celebrating our collective achievements and collaboratively planning for our future growth. And this special event will provide a space for reflection, celebration, and important discussions about upcoming proposals that will shape our next season. So there's some beautiful artwork here and a little overview of some things that we've done over the past 6 months. And then there's 2 proposals here, or 3 proposals rather. One proposal has been formally submitted and is now approved by the Optimism Fractal Council, which is the seasonal schedule to start season 6 of Optimism Fractal on May 15th, following a 2 event spring break. And the Optimism Town Hall will operate according to the same schedule. And there's a full proposal where you can see all the implementation details. It's pretty simple proposal, but then there's also more details and rationale and so forth for anybody who wants to dive into the benefits of this. We discussed this a lot at our last event, and you can see the video for that. And then there's also 2 proposals that are in draft form. One is a participant agreement proposal, implementing a simple agreement framework for season 6. And there's also a full draft proposal here where you can view. Tadas already provided some feedback on it. This is a proposal that will require community members to consent to video recording and content sharing for events starting in season 6 to ensure clear expectations of protections for the community and allow the community member to better promote our events and better position the whole community for growth, as well as yeah, there's basically 3 terms here for video consent, content use and permissions, funding expectations, and community values. It's a pretty early draft, so we can get into that shortly. But I'm just kind of like providing an overview here, and then we can get back to it. And then I also made this one about changing the time of meetings, where I just kind of drafted out a couple quick notes about how we could potentially change the time by an hour, or even potentially change the day of the meetings too. This one's kind of like earlier draft, but we can get into that too. There's some reasons why it might be good to change. There's probably some reasons why it might not be good to change too. So happy to get into this if we have time. And then, yeah, basically we can use this event to, it'll be open discussion. So we can discuss these proposals as much as everybody's interested in. And we can also just, reflect on our achievements over the past 6 months here for the season, as well as a year and a half that Optimism Fractal has been in progress and since it started, and reflect on our learnings and collectively envision our next chapter and how to make season 6 of Optimism Fractal and season 4 of Optimism Town Hall our most impactful yet, building on the strong foundations that we've established. So yeah, Rosmari had put out this message earlier in the Discord and in the governance forum too for Optimism Town Hall and Optimism Fractal seasonal rhythms too, where she encouraged everybody to watch the video from last week's event where we first introduced these. So we discussed all these things in quite a bit of detail. This was the main topic of Optimism Town Hall and when we met 2 weeks ago. And we had a lot of great feedback. So thanks everybody for the feedback and ideas and suggestions that were shared here. And then that inspired me to make those proposals basically to take the next steps. So the things that we discussed there, encourage people to check out this video at optimismtownhall.com/37. And of course, there's also detailed show notes here too with timestamps if you want to jump to specific aspects of the discussion. And yeah, there's also a little episode summary here too, which kind of goes over what I just went over as well. So that's basically where we're at now. And then, yeah, I put out this message here that kind of puts it all together in one place. So curious to hear what everybody thinks. I'm happy to go into more details about the proposals that I created here. I know that some of them were put out pretty recently. So you may not have had a time to look into it in detail yet, but happy to go through any of them, or if anybody has any more general thoughts about things I'd like to discuss going into Optimism Fractal Season 6 and the break and the next season of Optimism Town Hall, then happy to hear it. So thanks everybody again for the amazing season of Optimism Town Hall as well as Optimism Fractal. And the floor is open if anybody wants to unmute or raise their hand or share any thoughts in the chat about what they'd like to discuss, then feel free to do so. And we don't have many people speaking right now, so it might be helpful if I just go ahead and share a bit more details about any of these proposals, because I know there's a lot of new information, although I saw Rosmari unmuted too, and I see Tadas is joining on the camera too, and I know Tadas already had a chance to review one of the proposals as well. So, um, yeah, Rosmari, Tadas, did you want to say anything? Oh, I see
Just
Harvesto raised his hand. Up,
thinking if you want to maybe go over the proposals in more detail.
yeah, I'm happy to. I think that'd probably be a good idea to do it to maybe inspire some discussion. So,
I know there's a proposal about agreeing to start the season after 2 events from now. So that's passed. And if you want, we can talk about the other ones.
yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thanks for the suggestion, Rosemary. So I'll do that. And if you have any other thoughts you want to share, then feel free. But I see Harvesto raised his hand. So Maybe before I go ahead and share more details about that, we'll pass it over to Harvesto.
Oh yeah, thanks. So I think it was Tadas or Abraham that was talking about I think it was Abraham. He was talking about the Superchain grant proposal. So I'd like to hear more about that, what it entails and any details you can share.
I'm not sure what you mean. You said the Superchain grants proposal?
Yeah, I think he means the Superchain Interop proposal. I think that's what
Proposal, okay.
Abraham was talking about.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, I'm happy to provide some details about that as well. That's an exciting thing that I shared and Jacob shared as well in our respect games. And yeah, to be clear, there is also like the Optimism grants, which is a different grant program, and then there's also retro funding. So Optimism has several different grant programs, and then for this one in particular, this is something. Maybe I'll just give a brief highlight, and then we can get back to the proposals that have been discussed as Rosemary suggested pretty soon. But yeah, so I gave a overview of this in my respect game, so I'm just looking for the right window now. Yeah, and so. Basically, this is a program that I was invited to personally by Zane, who works for the Optimism or rather for OP Labs. He's an engineer who leads the development of the Superchain Interop technology. As you may know, Superchain Interop is basically connecting all the fragmented chains built on the OP stack on the Superchain into a smooth, unified experience. And so it's going to make it so basically all of the chains on the superchain, including OP mainnet and Base and Unichain and Zora and Ink and so forth, all basically can connect and interact seamlessly, where you can have like all the transactions work totally very smoothly as if it's all one big chain basically, the super chain basically. So I had met Zane in Denver when I went to ETH Denver about a month ago. And then I also met Hamdi, who works with Zane. And then they put out these tweets after our discussion. And then Zane invited me to join the Superchain Interop incubator program afterwards. And so I was really excited about that and excited to build with Superchain Interop. He's familiar with Optimism Fractal. And so basically, I accepted the invitation, and then I've been working to assemble a team for this over the past few weeks. I've been in contact with Abraham and Tadas and Jacob and Howard and Vlad, and we've been discussing the best things to build and so forth. There's 13 teams who have been accepted into this. So Optimism Fractal is one team that I've been leading coordinating, and there's also 12 other teams that we met for the first event earlier today. And these videos will all be recorded too. So I imagine they're probably going to publish them publicly. So far, it's been like more of like a private incubator for just teams who are invited, but maybe they'll open up more public in the future. And I think the recordings are planning to promote and so forth. So yeah, that's kind of like a high level overview. Basically, this is like a document that I put together and sent to the developers who have been interested in building with Optimism Fractal, and we've been discussing and so forth, and wound up starting a team where Tadas is the technical advisor, and I'm leading the project, and Jacob is doing the lead technical development, and other developers like Abraham and Howard offer to help in various ways too. So we'll see how we collaborate, but it's basically a 12-week program where they have OP Labs giving a bunch of different things or rather workshops with overviews of how the new Interop software works. And then there's also some deliverables too that each team will be doing. So the team that I'm leading with Optimism Fractal and collaborating with Das and Jacob on, we're going to be eventually building a testnet deployed app demo by week 12, and then we'll get the opportunity to pitch to VCs. And there's several other things. I'm kind of just giving like a high level overview here, but yeah, this document basically shares more details. It would be helpful. Maybe I could share this too. And there's also lots of details here that I had curated about what is Superchain Interop. There's a lot of great videos here from Carl, co-founder of Optimism, and Zane and others too, for people who want to learn. And there's also documentation and stuff like that. So that's basically like an overview. You can also find articles and documentation. And so I'll be providing updates at Optimism Fractal events when we return, and potentially we can schedule a full Optimism Town Hall discussion about it too, because we're really excited to see what we can build with Optimism Fractal and Superchain, and I'm really excited to see what all the other 12 teams build as well. And this Superchain technology, it's intended to come online and be like fully like right now. There's some aspects that are ready to use for developers, but uh, it's not fully implemented on the Superchain yet, but they're aiming to get it, I believe, either fully implemented on the test net or fully internet implemented on the main net in June. So it's coming soon. And I see Harvesto said, please share the docs. So I just shared. I'm not sure if those are the docs you're referring to, Harvesto. Feel free to let me know if there's something else. But I shared three links that I shared that I curated resources about videos about Superchain Interop, articles from Optimism Foundation, and documentation, like technical documentation as well. So you could see, for example, technical documentation if you want to dive into it. I know, Professor, you're working, doing a lot of research into interoperability with, I believe, Superlane too. So yeah, curious to hear your thoughts about it. And yeah, if anybody has any thoughts about this with more detail, then happy to hear. I see Rosmari's giving a heart. Harvesto, if you want to make any comments, or Tadas or anybody, or if not, then like I said, I'll be giving more overviews of this as we proceed. We just started the program, so over the next 3 months, I'll be giving updates to Optimism Fractal events and maybe town hall events, so we can dive in deeper. And yeah, maybe it would be best to get back to the topics for the proposals as well. All right. Well, yeah, thanks for asking, Harvesto, and yeah, feel free to let me know if there's anything else that you wanted to see there. But I appreciate you asking and hope that answered your questions. And now I suppose I'll get back to the topics at hand that were on the agenda, rather. And yeah, so as Rosemary suggested, I can go into the proposals. So first off, there was this proposal that was approved. We discussed the rationale quite a bit in the past event that we had 2 weeks ago, but you can see the implementation details here. Basically, we're taking a 2 event break and returning on May 15th. And then we also are planning to take a 1 event mid-season break as well and do a 6 month season. So that way we get that kind of 90-day sprint as Eric was talking about and that momentum. But it's a good way to balance out the event structure and the workloads and so forth. Provided some overview of the strategic rationale for this decision for having these longer breaks for effective rest and development cycles, sustainable community rhythms, continue with established patterns because we already changed our event structure to biweekly, aligned scheduling. That was another thing I realized too after our event the last time that this seems like it'll work out better for having our Optimism Fractal 2 year anniversary actually on like right about on the last event of season 7 rather than in the middle of the season and returning uh on a date that isn't Thanksgiving, and then coordinating with Optimism Fractal, Eden Fractal, Optimism Town Hall, and generally devoting more resources to the event and making each of the events better. So that was some of the reasons why I proposed this, and this was approved by myself and Rosemary Tadas, and me and Rosemary were officially the counselors in this round too. So, as people who've been following Optimism Fractal for a while have been aware, we have a consensus process called the Optimism Fractal Council or the Sage Council, where each week everybody can register where everybody who's earned respect can register to be part of the council and to make decisions for the community. You can see all these registration polls here too. And then of course you could check out optimismfractal.com/details to find our intents, and you can see exactly how it works here. Um, Basically, 2/3 consensus process. We went over it in a lot of detail, which we've curated at optimismfractal.com/council. So if anyone wants to help make these decisions in the future, then you're very welcome to join the council and share your thoughts. And we look forward to governing with you. So, there's lots of videos where you can learn more about that, but that's basically the consensus process that was used to determine this change. It's part of the Optimism Fractal's tripartite governance structure, which we explored in depth at the Eden Fractal episode over here that we did a couple weeks ago, and we have been pioneering with this research grant that I got from the Optimism Collective to explain the fund distribution system and general tripartite governance structure. So I encourage you to check out previous videos about that, but we've already gotten into that quite a bit of detail. So, but just for a bit of context about how this proposal was approved for Optimism Fractal Season 6, as well as how these next proposals might be approved too. So, in addition to the proposal for the start of the season on May 15th, the other two proposals in draft form, the participant agreement proposals is in a further long state than the change time meetings. I kind of just thought of the change time meetings yesterday because well, I was discussing with Rosmari, and I realized that for people in Eastern Europe, the meeting times are quite late because we had daylight savings times. So I had some quick notes here that I don't know if we want to discuss this right now, but it might be helpful to change the 16 UTC to make it so that it's not so late there. We want to balance it so people in the Pacific time zone, or like California, it's not too early for them, but it's not too late for people in Eastern Europe as well. And so I wrote out some reasons not to change, some reasons to change, and so forth. And then also, one thing I noticed too that Rosemary also brought up with me is this there's a builder named Civil Monkey who I met in Denver as well, who curates all the like region aligned events. And he always says that Thursday is like the biggest day for events that in the region aligned space, and like there's all these events, including the events that we host, that are also like basically kind of competing at this time in a way. Like we're all collaborating to help build a more, regenerative world, but our events are at the same time, so it makes it difficult for people to join all of them. So for example, our call right now is at the same time as the weekly Green Pill call. And also it's at a close time to the weekly Octon Town Hall too. So I was briefly considering, or I considered a bit maybe rescheduling to a different day as well. Um, but that's something we could consider, but there's reasons not to. There's reasons potentially to do that, but I'm just putting that out there as something we might want to consider, given that we're going to a new season. If we want to make any change, either to the time or day, then we can. So that's kind of like a really early draft proposal. And then the proposal that we've been thinking about for several months, or like several years to some extent now. We talked about it back at Optimism Fractal over a year ago, I think, but we talked about it a lot last week, and I think we're actually getting quite close to doing it now. And I'd like to propose it in the beginning. I'd like to formally propose it in the beginning of season 6 and formally approve it then, is to implement an Optimism Fractal participant agreement. And yeah, Tadas shared some ideas. We should have this details page somehow included here so that everybody who participates in the events will uh, basically agree to like that they've read and that they understand how Optimism Fractal works and what are the respect game meetings and what are the respect game, what is respect and how is respect distributed and what are their consensus processes and so forth. It'd be great for people to make sure that people understand as they're joining the events. And yeah, it'd be good to figure out what the relationship is between the intent doc and the agreement. Maybe it's the same thing, or maybe it's two different documents that link to each other. Tadas and I talked about this actually quite a bit yesterday, and so I'll come with a more detailed proposal probably over the break or early next season. But wanted to share it here so that people could, think about it over the break and provide any feedback here. So yeah, basically it establishes an Optimus Vector participant agreement outlined below as a requirement for participation in events beginning in season 6. And the idea would be that all community members must sign this agreement to participate in future events, providing clear incentive for content sharing and establishing appropriate expectations. And then I'm trying to keep the agreement short. As we discussed in last week's event, there's like in prior fractals, there were quite long fractals, or quite long agreements rather, like the Genesis fractal, that like, for example, people all had to sign this to participate in the Genesis fractal. It's created by the fractal team and Dan Larimer and them, and it was like quite comprehensive and detailed. And there was many people who signed this, and it covers a lot more kinds of potential liabilities and so forth, and make sure that everybody's on the same page more. And they even drafted, they spent a lot of time and resources working on drafting a UNA document, which is this huge document to actually create an unincorporated nonprofit organization, or not nonprofit association rather, for the fractal. And so these are all like quite long, and maybe it might be helpful to do this at some point. This is 13 pages long, but um, my idea after our break, or after our event, or after our discussion last event, was to start out with a short one that's like easy to read and simple for people to understand, and just start out with like a few of the most key terms and things that we want to convey and make sure people are agreeing to. So, in addition to like agreeing to the general details and intents and how Optimism Fractal works, then the idea would be one is video recording consent, saying something like how each person understands that all Optimism Fractal events and Optimism Town Hall events are recorded, and how everyone's like explicitly giving consent to being recorded at these events, and knowing that these events are being shared publicly. And this would, as Eric said last week or last event, like we need to have specific purposes for this. So it explains the purpose here. Basically, this will make it easier for people to share videos and share like specific video clips for both the Eden Creators team as we share videos, as well as anybody else who wants to share videos to help promote what we're doing to ensure that everybody is clearly consenting to that. Right now, we have it on the website and on the event page. But the idea with this agreement would be that it's actually on chain using the probably the HATS protocol agreement module. Um, and and it'd be very clearly written so that people would read it before joining the event. So there's no chance that they'd miss that. And yeah, there's also this idea about the content usage permission, which goes along the same line that people can share event recordings and clips and so forth on different websites and social media and so forth. And then there's also a term or a clause or something like that that I put in there. And this is all kind of like generated partially by AI, by the way, too. Like I made an audio note, but this is kind of like a first version after I discussed with AI and then AI drafted it. And I haven't had the chance to like fully figure like this is like a fairly early draft, but there's a lot of good stuff here too. I think it needs some improvements. And Tadas pointed out some of them here, but another part is about funding expectations. That's like basically ensuring that everybody understands that by participating in events and earning respect tokens and being included in the videos does not entitle participants or any participants to earn any funding or financial compensation. And there's a note here that AI incorrectly wrote like while the community may distribute funds to participants in the future, such distribution is not guaranteed and will be determined by separate governance processes. But it's not true that the community will distribute funds to participants in the future. Maybe community members will, or maybe organizations around the community. But so we have to clarify some things like that. And I appreciate us pointing that out. But basically, just creating that expect, just making that clear that even if people are playing the game and earning respect and on videos and stuff like that, that doesn't entitle people to funds. And then there's a section about community values here, which might be good to add to about aligning with community values of collaboration, respect, and constructive engagement and so forth. So that's kind of like an overview of that. And then there's strategic rationale where this will help us enhance promotions and generally help protect the community from liabilities as we grow by establishing boundaries and expectations that protect the community from potential misunderstandings or disputes. It enables more scalable content creation, a foundation for fund distribution, because as I've been researching in that Optimism Fractal fund distribution research paper from that's been supported by the Optimism Collective via that grant. That research project is all about fund distribution and figuring out how to better distribute funds using the Respect Game and Optimism Fractal. And so, as Optimism Fractal develops capabilities for fund distribution, clear agreements become even more critical. This agreement helps set appropriate expectations about participations and reward mechanisms, reducing potential conflicts by explicitly stating that participation alone doesn't guarantee funding, and this kind of progressive evolution where we can maybe use our consensus processes and propose other clauses or terms as necessary without overwhelming people by keeping an agreement that's short. As you saw here, this is like something you could read in like a minute or 30 seconds, like that. So hopefully it won't be too big of a barrier for people to join. We'd also need to figure out the actual implementation to this too. Like I think that I have some notes about like the HATS protocol module for agreement that I could find, but we'll have to actually test that out and stuff to actually implement this. But that's like basically an overview of this proposal to implement an Optimism Fractal participant agreement, and would be very curious to hear if anybody has any thoughts about that. I know me and Tadas had a very inspired discussion about it yesterday, and appreciate all the feedback you gave me, Tadas, there. And then yeah, I see some. Did it say did it say fund distribution? Is that what I said to Tadas, or was that something that I wrote there? Maybe that's when we put in the agreement.
Maybe that's something I wanted to hear. I don't know.
Yeah. That's what it's all about, really. You just need funds to have fun sometimes.
Yeah, we are distributing fun and funds in Optimism Fact.
That's right. That's what the respect game is about. Rosemary's laughing here. Okay, so yeah, it's been a fun time so far, and it's gonna be a lot more fun. And then there's gonna be funds too in the future, I think, involved. Especially also Tadas created that splits contract too, and he donated the $20 to participants as well. So that mechanism is now available as both a fund distribution system in addition to the fund distribution. But anyway, Tadas is here unmuted, and I've been talking a lot. So you want to share any thoughts here?
Uh, no, don't have any thoughts. I want to thank you for this draft of contributor agreement. I think it's pretty simple and understandable, and it's very good that it's short. Of course, maybe we will want to expand later, but yeah, just like I said, left some comments about what still needs to be done.
Yep. Thanks
I also
for
read it.
what's that,
It
Rosemary?
looks good. I also read it. It looks good. The only part that I was thinking about was the one that you said about that you already flagged, the one on funding expectations.
Maybe I could just fix that real quick.
Hmm
How's that?
I don't know if it even needs to be there in that level of detail.
I think I got the perfect fix there. I don't know if you saw Rosemary, but I changed
I
while the
saw.
community. Okay. The community may distribute fund to participants. That's just not guaranteed. It will be determined by separate governance processes. We'll have to make a proposal to distribute the fund, which is what we do kind of in a way, a little bit. We the reset game. But anyway, sorry, Rosemary, you were making a serious point there, and I started being silly. Thanks for reading it, and thanks for providing feedback. And yeah, I agree that part. We can actually just remove that, or we could just make it clear that like while you know people in
Is
the
that gonna
community
be for
or
both Optimism Fractal and the Town Hall? Would they have separate agreements? Because I see that one is for Optimism Fractal.
that is a good question. Um, I don't know. I think, I mean, another thing that we have to figure out too is I think we should have a similar agreement for Eden Fractal as well, and um. Optimism Town Hall, like it'd be nice if people could just sign things once and be able to join all of the events hosted by Optimistics. So maybe it makes sense to have like a general Optimistics participant agreement for all the events that Optimistics hosts. But that might also be maybe not as good for some reasons. Maybe it's good to have specific agreements that are different for Optimism Fractal Town Hall and Eden Fractal. So I'm not sure what's best.
Maybe you can have one for people who join all three events, and if there are people who only join one, maybe just have one and give them that one.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Be curious if me has any thoughts about that because that's something that I kind of forgot about as I was drafting this, but something that's definitely good to think about. Thanks, Rosemary, for the suggestion. I don't know, Tadas, do you have any suggestions about that? Or maybe Eric or Harvesto, do you have any thing you'd like to share here?
Well, I think each community, each as far as we treat those Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal as separate organizations, we should have separate contributor agreements. Unless we somehow like we have separate agreements for different parts. So like a meeting host could have an agreement for meeting participants, and then it could be the same across fractals maybe. But was
Yeah.
Probably
that
different is better, thinking about it now.
Mm,
So that's convincing. Because it's like a community one, so the community can then change it if it's different from the beginning, if it's separate from each other. If let's say a
Yep.
community wants to change their agreement later down the road, they won't have to change the one agreement that we use for all events, but they'll just change their own community agreement. So for that reason, I think it makes sense to be more granular on just getting more agreements in place for the per event and community.
yes, Rosmari, you sound sleepy, but I think you're correct. So
Is it that noticeable? I even turned off my camera.
No, it's your voice has been getting a bit like quieter. So
You keep also saying in between your sentences too, a little bit. I don't know if you noticed that. No, I'm just joking. But it also might have tipped off to Das because you said you think you're going to go soon because you're getting sleepy. And yeah, so maybe we should wrap it up soon. And thanks, Rosmari, for being here. But feel free to head out if you want to head to bed. Don't want to keep you up too late. But that does actually provide a good segue to the other draft proposal. But maybe before I get into that, because I would love to hear if anybody has any feedback on this draft proposal about changing the day or time, and maybe to help Rosemarie and Tadas or anybody else in time zones where it's late right now to get better sleep, then we can discuss if this would be useful to change the time. After daylight savings has happened, so now it's pushed back the hour for people in Eastern Europe. But just one other thing I'd add to this note about the participant agreement first is that I agree. Yeah, I agree that it makes sense for Optimism Fractal and Eden Fractal to have different agreements because their consensus processes could determine, they might have different needs and they have different communities and different, there's some overlap there, but still different consensus processes. We're going to be rebooting the Eden Fractal consensus process with ORDAO and some other kind of council implementation as we discussed in the last Eden Fractal event. Um, but Optimism Town Hall is also separate from Optimism Fractal, but it's close to Optimism Fractal than Eden Fractal in a way. Like Optimism Fractal has its own community. Optimism Town Hall, I guess it has its own community. There's some people who join Optimism Town Hall but don't join Optimism Fractal, but it's much more like overlapping with Optimism Fractal. So that's a question I'd have too if we'd want to make an Optimism Town Hall participant agreement. It's also different because um, Optimism Town Hall is like it's a little bit less interactive in the sense that there's no respect game. So, and there's no respect token being distributed. Although I actually would love to make a Kajenda's app where people can earn respect tokens by participating, but that's something that doesn't exist right now. So, um, yeah, I'm curious if maybe has any thoughts about that. We don't necessarily need to dive into it now, but whether Optimism Town Hall should have its own participant agreement in addition to Optimism Fractal participant agreement. That's something I'm wondering about. And also, I don't even know what would govern that. Like, I suppose I could govern that as a host of it, but the Optimum Fractal Council, I suppose in general, my aim with Optimum Town Hall is to host it as the Optimum Fractal Council wants to. So the Optimum Fractal Council could make a proposal for that as well. But I don't know. Tadas is here unmuted. Do you have any thoughts about this or?
yeah, so for me, from the perspective of Optimism Fractal, the Optimism Town Hall event serves as a place to discuss proposals before they are voted on. So for me, it serves a key function, and for that reason, I'm keen on considering it as part of Optimism Fractal even, and having contributors sign two agreements and too many agreements could be tedious. Although I can see why you might want to have it as a separate meeting, but then uh, instead of having users sign like 3 or 4 agreements for each event, because you also might have hidden town hall. So instead of participants having to sign 4 agreements, maybe then consider having the separate meeting participant agreement, which you would have participants sign once, and then that would work for all participants for all meetings you host. And then you probably would still have to have another agreement for each of the organizations, but yeah, still that's a bit less agreement. Just thinking of some options.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that insight and perspective. So, yeah, I don't know. It's something to consider if optimistics should have an agreement. I suppose that it can, as you say, but that might result in more agreements. And it could all just work too, where Optimism Fractal and Eden Fractal have agreements, and then Optimism Town Hall is included in the Optimism Fractal agreement as well. I see Josh shared the council poll, so everybody can register for the next council that will be forming, I believe, after the break. And I see Rosmari has her hands up, so we'll pass over to Rosmari now.
Yes, if you want to create the one agreement that covers all events, how are you just going to put that on the Optimism Fractal hats tree? If it's for a different community than just Optimism Fractal, but it's on the Optimism Fractal hats tree. Wouldn't that be confusing? Or would you, for example, for Eden Fractal, create another hats tree if you're going to manage the agreement there and be signed on chain? The same way that the agreement for Optimism Fractal would be signed on chain on hats.
Great questions. And I think that, yeah, for technical reasons, it makes more sense for that to be separate, probably. Maybe there's some way to get around that, but I'm not sure exactly what the benefit would be of having a optimistics agreement separate from optimism fractal agreement and Eden fractal agreement. And Rashida says, I still got it going strong. She had a vision in her dream as she was dozing off there. So yeah, I think that for that reason, it's probably gonna make sense to set up a Eden fractal hats tree using the I was also trying to search for it too, so I was getting a bit distracted. Maybe I shouldn't try to do that. But I do have some resources curated in the Optimism Fractal Notion page about the Optimism Fractal Hash Tree and their agreement module, because they have this on-chain infrastructure as well as a user interface that you can use to have agreements. And then I think that Hats protocol is probably the best tool to do this. And we already have it integrated. So yeah, in that case, if we do decide to go with Hats protocol, then I think that having a separate hats tree for Optimism Fractal and Eden Fractal would be best. And then the Optimism Town Hall could be kind of just, we could have that agreement for Optimism Fractal. And on the screen, I just added Optimism Town Hall here. I could probably add that more places, but I think that would be fine and sufficient because like it's basically like it's two events, but they're right back to back. So I think that would be good to have that. And then I don't think that we would need a separate one for optimistics if we already have all our events being covered by these agreements as well.
Yeah, I agree because to maybe couple Optimism Fractal and Town Hall for now, because for Optimism, the processes for voting for proposals at the Town Hall are very intertwined with getting respect from playing the respect game at Optimism Fractal. So that's just one example that for that reason it makes sense for these two events to have one agreement. And in the future, once Optimism Town Hall gets more, I suppose, decentralized in a way that a lot of the even Superchain, the Superchains can vote with their tokens potentially, then and being like much bigger in size, then probably then it would make sense to have its own separate agreement. But for right now, that's why I think we say, Optimism Town Hall has the Optimism Fractal community mainly joining. So it depends like where it's going, but right now it's more so suited towards that audience of Optimism Fractal because of the way that the voting happens for both for topics and also being part of the council. It's through using the respect earned at respect games.
Yes, I agree. And from my side, I always see, like I said, utility in having this meeting where we specifically for a fractal where we discuss, or a single fractal where we discuss proposals for that specific fractal. So So from my side, that would be fine if Optimism Town Hall is always like specific to Optimism Fractal. But who knows how it will be. But for now, yeah, it seems like the simplest way to each fractal to have its own single contributor agreement. And for these town halls to go to use that as an agreement.
Mhm. Okay. Well, it sounds great. Thanks, Rosmari and Tadas, for the thoughts there, and I agree. It also might be helpful too. I don't know if I brought this up last week, but we have a project for implement on-chain optimal fractal participant slash contributor agreement that I created last year, where there's a lot of resources about this project and things to do. I have to organize this bottom thing a bit better. But yeah, basically, I had done research. I think there's some other articles or pages where I curated better because I was trying to find some of it and I couldn't quite find it. But like I have this about creating a participant agreement with Optimism Fractal with HATS protocol, and yeah, there's a video here where um, some of this is explained how it works. Maybe I can pull it up briefly, but they have like a nice user interface where it works. Um, and yeah, this is in one of their talks here, but maybe he's not giving an overview. Oh, yes. So here's how it looks basically with their user interface. So you can have the agreement there, and then you can download it and you can sign it. Right now, CC is on or something like that. So, but you can see there's like a thing to sign it below, and then once you do that, then you get a hat. And then yeah, one of the things that Tadas and I were discussing yesterday too is like how do you actually enforce that, or like how do you actually execute it and stuff like that, and how do you make it work that once people get the hat, that it actually makes it so like it has effect basically. But Hats Protocol does have a lot of integrations where it allows you to token gate various things as you get the hats. So we can token gate, for example, the Luma events like the Optimistics calendar or the Optimism Fractal events. So we could go and token gate this and require that people have a certain hat to join. And also we could go to the Optimism Fractal Discord and have like a private channel where we should share a Zoom link or something like that too. So there's just some technical implementation details that we'll need to figure out by then. Okay, well, curious, Rosmarin Tadas, if you have any other thoughts on this agreement structure, but we could also save that for another time when it's not so late for the two of you. We could wrap it up now. If you have any last thoughts on the agreement or anything else before we wrap up this season of Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall, then would be curious to hear. Also, for you two in particular, I'd be curious what you think. Rosemary said, agree, let's wrap it up. Sounds good. And then I suppose the one thing that we could always discuss over the break or something like that is just if it makes sense to change the time to earlier or change the day of meetings because I know for you two it is pretty late there right now. So that's something to consider. But maybe that's another discussion we can have another time. And I'm planning to like kind of like uh, I have a reminder to record audio and use AI to write this better. But I think I have most of the ideas here really. So if you ever want to review that, 16 UTC will be I think Rosemary's right in the things wrong. 16 et cetera will be thinner. Maybe falling asleep on the phone. But yeah, it's something we can consider. And if we want, we can change the time to 16 UTC so it ends a little bit earlier in the Eastern time zone. That will make it a bit earlier for people in Pacific time zone. Fine. But yeah, that's something. But we could also change the day of the events if we want to. But maybe that's something to consider over the break, and we can talk about that over the break if we want to. Tadas, Rosemary, do you have any comments on that, or should we just wrap it up now? Or any other comments you want to say before we wrap it up?
Yeah, 16 UTC is fine. And yeah, me and Rosemarie want to sleep.
Okay, sounds good. Well, and that might with that we can save that for another time then, and let you two get to sleep. Thanks so much for being here late. It's kind of like back in the first events. It was us. So here we are at the end of season 5. We've come a long way, going full circle. So thanks so much to Das and Rosemary for the great discussion and everything over the past season. Thanks so much everybody out there for everything that you've contributed over the season, and it's been really wonderful. So very much looking forward to the next season of Optimism Fractal and Optimism Town Hall returning on May 15th. Hope to see you there. And I think it's going to be our biggest season yet. So we encourage you to invite friends and get involved in the community and contribute in various ways, build on the Superchain with us. And also Eden Fractal will be having its last event on April 10th, 1 week from now. So we hope to see you there too, before it returns for Epoch 2 in May. So with that, thanks all. We're gonna let them sleep and wish you a good day. Maybe we'll end it with a go optimism.
Go sleep.
Go
Whoa.
sleep. Go sleep.
Very good. Like go rest off season.
Go rest for the off season. Okay, you want to do that?
No, I just said that it makes sense to say go sleep because it's off season for Optimism Fractal.
That's true. Maybe we'll say go rest and go optimism.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay.
we will agree to anything at this point.
Yeah, okay. And we'll just keep saying go rest and go optimism for the next 4 hours. Great. Okay, just kidding. All right. Go rest and go optimism on three, two, one. Go
Oh,
rest.
up,
And
oh,
go. I forgot about
Oh.
it. And go optimism now. Maybe I guess we'll just skip the rest one.
yes, go Optimism.
Go optimism. All right.
Oh.
Thanks all, and see you next time.
Okay, see you.
Bye bye.